Hello and welcome to episode 87 of When the Flames Go Up, the ATFC podcast. We are back. We are still losing, but Woking to come, Boreham Wood, and then we're bang into Morecambe. This episode covers what's just gone, the run we were on, the last three games in particular, and we move on to discuss Woking away, our hopes and the ticketing situation a little bit. Then we go on to discuss Boreham Wood and a little bit about the Project 3000, where Dean Wood is hoping for 3,000 through the gates for every home game that remains this season. I don't think that'll be happening on Tuesday at home to Boreham Wood, but we touch on it. And as always, email the pod, atfcpodcast@gmail.com, if you've got any thoughts, feelings, or I guess any incentives to get more people through the door. Because sometimes it's hard enough to get yourself to go. So let us know. Let us discuss it maybe in a future episode. I'm sure we will cover that in more detail. Anyway, that's enough. Enjoy the episode, and of course, up the shots. So the shots are in 17th position as we speak this evening. It's Tuesday night, though. There's games being played. Woking at home to Yeovil, for example, they're below us. We could end up around 19th if things in the midweek slip against us once more. The shots in a typical fashion for this season, and maybe the last few seasons, have gone into rollercoaster mode once again, following up a joint best ever league run with 4 defeats in a row. They may have been expected, but we're not here to. You're not here to maybe judge over the course of the season whether those were matches that we could have got some points from. But we'll discuss those. The record against the top 6 this season for the shots is not happy viewing. Defeats in all the away games. The one solitary win so far was against Scunthorpe. We have Boreham Wood still to come in the next week, so we'll see how we get on against them and see what the overall top 6 rating will be by the end of the season. So yeah, we've been off the pod for a couple of weeks, so we've got those 4 defeats to tuck into. Plenty of things to discuss, I'm sure. I'll start with you, Guy. 4 defeats in a row, tough to take. I guess. How do we feel about the manner of the defeats? I know they were. I've mentioned they were broadly expected, but were we pleased with the performances overall?
Yeah, I think thanks, Will. I mean, I would have to say that, as you said, we came into these games, we weren't expecting to get a hell of a lot from these games, and I suppose that takes the edge off the losses somewhat. I mean, looking at across all 4 games, and I mean, I know the last time we spoke, we had just had the Rochdale game, and since then we've had Forest Green, Carlisle, and York. All 4 of them defeats. But what's really striking to me is how well we've kind of held up during these games. Yes, we would, we conceded, we went behind, particularly I think Forest Green, we were 2-0 down inside 30 minutes. And it really was, sort of a bit of a hill to climb, but we never we never lost our heads over that, I think. If we take the Rochdale game to begin with, I mean, we had an awful lot of the possession, but we just did very little with it. And Rochdale had the ball very, very infrequently, and when they did have it, they made it matter, but they made it count. It's especially with Desaruve's 2 goals. I mean, the second one was magic from the edge of the area. But yeah, Carlisle 2 first half goals as well, again against us, both from set pieces. We were structurally sound, but we were again lacking in attacking edge. And when it came to York, I mean, we were really outplayed. I mean, it was they had 11 shots on targets to our 4. The goals, looking at them, the first one was a long ball from the goalkeeper. just laid off quite nicely to the striker coming onto it. Second goal, a deep cross over to the far post, Hill missing the header and probably not being there, to pick up Newby. And the third goal, by this point, it was already gone, but it was with the last sort of 10 minutes or so, Nightingale losing possession, in our, halfway between the goal and the halfway line. So not great in terms of we were lacking in edge and when it comes to attacking, not really creating enough chances. But this also, I think, shows the difference between the teams we were playing before this current run and the ones that we've just done, because the ones we've just played have all been top five sides. And I think this shows the gap, the difference between us, mid-table, even if we're sort of falling towards the bottom, us at mid-table and the top sides. It really does, I think, show what we need to do or what we need to upgrade if we are going to be up and around them next season, assuming, of course, that we're still staying in the National League. So, disappointing with the results, but at the same time, we did keep going at it, but there was just no fire, no fire at the very end. So in terms of opportunities. So, hopefully we can sort of start to sort of turn the corner now and just move on.
Yeah, and it's interesting the way the fixture list has ended up this season. I suppose and that's the same we said in November, wasn't it? We said, oh, if we could just get past this, then we've got Woking. And obviously we know what happened in that one back in November. Ian, I'll come to you next. Your thoughts on the last four results and the manner of them.
Very disappointed to get no points. I felt after that Braintree win that we were going to go into these four games and somehow be able to get 3-4 points somehow. Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly when and how, but thought we could be competitive enough to give these sides a game. Rochdale, I think, just talking about when I was last on, I felt we competed well enough, but Rochdale were too good. Forest Green's probably the point that got away, that we didn't have a good first half performance and we really battled back well in the second half. Carlisle, I didn't see a lot of that one. So I'll move on to York, and York just far too strong. So we've ended up with no points. I'd have been happy if we could have got one or two just to keep that points total ticking on. As it is, league position wise and gap to the bottom four is still okay. And I think we'll be okay. And despite being outplayed, we've not been sort of humiliated in any games. So that's why I'm remaining positive for what's left to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the embarrassing game could have been that York game. I mean, we saw the highlights from when they pulled us apart at their place. Admittedly, it seemed like we actually put in a half decent performance that day, but still came away conceding five. Such is the way when a team ends up scoring over 100 goals. Remains to be seen if they end up catching. I think it was Notts County that got 117. I'm not sure if they're on track, but the way that strike force looks, I mean, can't put it past them getting 120 by the close of the season. And Julian, I'll come to you. Your feelings on the last four games.
Yeah, thanks, Will. I agree with everything that's been said so far. I am disappointed that we haven't taken anything from it. I thought after the run we were on, and particularly how we played against Braintree, I thought we played well. It just felt as if we're in the ideal position to be taking on these teams at the right time. And to look back on it and get 4 defeats and 3 home games without really even looking like scoring, to be honest, very similar patterns. I thought all the games, we started well, first 10, 15 minutes, and then never really caused them any trouble and comfortable for the away team in the end. So really disappointed that we didn't take any points at all. Ian mentioned the Forest Green game, and again, I agree with that. I thought if we'd played better in the first half, I think we would have potentially come out with something. But one of the a couple of interesting things that John Coleman's talked about is that he's not interested in this plucky loser tag. You don't get any points to win a plucky loser. And I thought it was also interesting how he has pretty much called out some individuals as well in the interviews. I was very fortunate to do one of the interviews at Forest Green, and what he was saying, it really surprised me actually, because what he was saying off screen, he then just carried on screen, and I was like, oh, I'm surprised you've said that. But he was saying things like, I hate playing sideways, I hate playing back to the keeper. I want to go forward, and it's refreshing. It is refreshing to hear his interviews, and he's got a few puzzles to solve. But I think we've probably missed. We've missed Inwood, we've missed Haddy, we've missed Sean Patton going back to Reading, and they've all gone at the same sort of time. And I think that has disrupted the flow of the team. And okay, we've got Widdrington and Tetek coming back, but it still isn't quite right, is it? And the other thing which I was going to point out, which surprised me a little bit, is with Josh Barrett returning, he hasn't looked anywhere near as fit as I think he needs to be. And it's difficult when he is going to get match fit. It is going to take him 4, 5 or 6 games, but we can't afford to have a half fit Josh Barrett for 4, 5 or 6 games. We need him back in weaving his magic now. So so overall disappointed with the four games. I hear what you say about the let's get through them and we'll tackle the Wokings and the Morecambes or whatever, but just a little bit of a frustration for me is that Wokings, Morecambes and the Gatesheads are now playing like a house on fire. So I feel like we've been really unlucky to play them when they are playing so well. So we'll get on to the Woking game in a minute, I'm sure. But so overall disappointment, but just hoping that the confidence hasn't been severely knocked and that they can bounce back similarly to how they did when they lost their 7 or 8 games in a row.
Yeah, I was going to mention the players that we've lost. Obviously, Sean Patton going back, and we've only scored 1 goal since he's gone. Of course, it was Charlie Warren that got that goal, who is now, I think, our joint top league goal scorer with Ryan Hill. So he's here for the rest of the season, so I'm sure he's going to end up as our top goal scorer. But I guess it's hard now to put Barrett back into a team where I'm not sure where his best position is. We knew we'd find a way to put it into Tommy's team. He did play up top in a couple of games, and he excelled. Off the top of my head, obviously the one at Oldham, he played up front as a centre forward, but he did have Boreham alongside him in that one. I think the lone striker role might not be the one for Josh Barrett, but we haven't got this endless number of options and players that can play in 4 or 5 positions. John Coleman's got to find a way, and pretty quickly, because we've got 2 big games coming up. We are 7 points off the drop. The last time we spoke, obviously, was the Braintree game. So I think we were 12. I want to say 12 points away, but we were 12 points away from Braintree in the last place. Braintree are now 3rd bottom, and Gateshead and Morecambe have picked up a fair few wins in that time. Brackley on a big slide, 6 defeats in a row. So you can see them being one of the teams that drops into it relatively soon. We'll start with Woking away at the weekend. The game you've probably not heard much about. It is a 12:30 kickoff, although Ultra I don't think have ever confirmed that it is a 12:30 kickoff. Woking did last year. In the last 4 visits to Woking, 2 wins, 2 defeats. Those 2 wins, obviously, and any win away at Woking and any win for them is also memorable. But both been 3-2s. Jack Barham with the winner last time out in 2024, and then of course 2 years before that, Mikel and Jolie's 95th minute winner. And then since Neil Ardley departed Woking at the beginning of March, they've had 2 wins and 2 draws, so a bit of a turnaround in fortunes and form for them. Ollie Sanderson, top goal scorer with 12 so far, and Harry Buterman, obviously, was sent off for his disgusting elbow on Theo Widrington in the FA Trophy semi-final. He is second with 5 goals. I imagine 4 of those are pens, and the other one was a tap-in. They are 21st in the league for home games or home form. Aldershot are in 19th, so I don't know what you really read into that. And yeah, just a note, away form under Coleman has been all right. Unbeaten in 4 before that Forest Green defeat that we've mentioned. Guy, here we go. Thoughts on the game? How do you rate Aldershot's chances, and any lineup changes or players that we should see on Saturday?
Yeah, so I think looking at what was a bit surprising with the York game was that we shifted. So whereas we've been under Coleman, we've very much been playing 4-3-3 pretty much since November. We went to a 4-1-4-1 at the weekend. But I suspect when it comes to Woking, we'll probably go back to 4-3-3 again. In terms of sort of you asked me who you think is going to be playing. I mean, we saw Widrington was back against York. I would suspect that he's probably going to be down on the sheet again come the weekend. It's I think really we're starting to see. I mean, we've talked a bit about some of the players that have left over the last month or so, but there do seem to be other players starting to come back in, right? So we've got Shackelford, who was out for a while, seems to be now making that right position his own at the back. We've also got Scott there, who's been playing back in since the good run of form. Up top, we're going to probably be with Warren and Pete. But I think also looking on the bench as well, we saw we had minutes, against York for Dejan Tetek, so he's coming back. And also obviously, we're talking a little bit about Barrett as well. So I suspect, we will have depth on the bench. I mean, maybe not necessarily the minutes, maybe not necessarily the the full match fitness, but people, players who could come on and maybe do a last 20 minutes or so. And of course, this is the derby, isn't it? So, in terms of if you can't get motivated and psyched up enough for a game against Woking, you can't really do it against anyone else. So really, I suspect that is going to add a little bit of spice to the players wanting to get off the bench as well. I mean, I'd like to see Henry back as well, because he does add, when he has played, he has added a little bit of sort of sharpness, a little bit of dynamism that maybe we kind of lost a bit from Barrett while he was away. But I mean, ultimately, what we've got to be looking for is we're holding onto the ball, we're getting bodies back when we're defending, but really I think the big challenge is making effort, making chances, and then not only making them but taking them. I was struck by when we watched the game in York. Warren had a fantastic half chance that he created, but it really was hard work, sort of having his back to goal, getting it played in, turning around, and unfortunately not being able to get it past the keeper. I just would like to see him getting more, opportunities that are more clear cut than having to sort of carve one out. That's only a half chance. But yeah, so looking in terms of sort of the game ahead, I had a look at the odds. There's not much in it. Maybe slightly more of an advantage to Woking, I guess, more because of their position than us. But the bookies seem to think that it's a fairly even sort of toss up at the moment. So maybe that's promising for us.
Yeah, so let's hope so. Yes, just had a look back at the. I was interested there when you were saying about the lineup or players going back in. I was like, who was playing last year in the 3-0 defeat? So the starting lineup out of that's still left: Keane Anderson, Tetek, Frost, Thomas, and Gandor. The rest no longer with us, which is quite interesting. I feel, and obviously, I was just checking to see who would remember Dan Moss breaking Ryan Jones's leg. So yeah, maybe this is why there's been not much communication. But they don't want to create this incendiary atmosphere, but it's always going to be like this. And yeah, I'm sure people have got opinions on whether it's a derby or not, but it's becoming a derby. I don't care what you say. It's Surrey versus Hampshire. Let's go. While we're talking about Surrey and Hampshire, we'll go to Ian, the Hampshire hog himself. Yeah, your thoughts on the Woking game coming up?
Couple of things. There's been many times over the year that we've gone to Kingfield not in good form, and Woking have seemed like they're in good form, and we've managed to get a result or a win out of nothing. So I'm clinging on to that. I also think that where we were playing sort of particularly well against Scunthorpe, etc., on that good run of form, we were able to start really positively, get on the front foot, and let the opposition know that we were there for a game. Thinking particularly about the Yeovil away performance. And I think we've not been able to do that because we've played teams of quality in recent weeks. Now, obviously, Woking have got decent players, they're good, but I think they're absolutely not in the league of the four teams that we've just played. So that's what I want to see on Saturday, that we absolutely hit them from the start and just let them know that we're there, and hopefully that will carry us through and be quite happy with the points. So I'm optimistic for the game. Yeah, I'm not going to be there myself because, yeah, this ticket arrangement has been a farce, and it's just seemed less effort to not bother and keep the money to myself and maybe try and find a stream to watch it on. You know, especially with the financial situation will come on, I'd rather save my money and spend more money at home rather than give some money to Woking. So, yeah, well up for this Saturday, but not so up for being there.
Neither me. Say it every year. But yeah, it's interesting you say that. Yeah, let them know we're there. Obviously, we had slightly changed lineups last year. Obviously, with it coming so soon after the FA Trophy semi-final, I believe was it? It was after, wasn't it? So there was this kind of almost famous now hangover that we had where team selection was a bit strange and we kind of sat back in the league. And yeah, Woking absolutely trounced us that day. It's I mean, probably the easiest 3-0 they'll have over us. So yeah, any repeat of that will be awful. Yeah, and you mentioned there the ticket situation, just as a kind of, yeah, obviously I've said the lack of communication about the game in general from both sides has been strangely lacking. I guess I assumed that we'd kind of not done it because we didn't have someone in place. But it seems that Woking have also not been doing it, and then that recently we've been given some more seats. Home fans have been moved out of part of the seating stand that we've got for years, and I know this season they've started not giving away that part of the stand. But when it was announced they were, Shots fans obviously bought seated tickets, and then they were told after the weekend that they could no longer sit in those seats, so would have to be transferred terrace tickets. And I'm not sure how people are getting on with getting refunds on that if they are unable to stand at the game. So yes, I mean, watch this space. Very strange situation. And I'll come to you, Julian. Your thoughts on Woking away on the weekend?
Yeah, it's it's come at a really interesting time of the season, hasn't it? Because we're usually eating turkey and mince pies and all sorts of things when we play Woking, but yeah, to have it not at Christmas seems a little bit odd to me. But it's I think it's not come at a great time for us, if I'm being really honest. I'd rather we'd played them a month ago when they were having all sorts of problems with couldn't buy a goal, and Neil Ardley playing them really defensive. And since Neil's left, they just seem to have been unleashed. Ollie Sanderson is playing really well at the moment. I think he said, did you say earlier on he's got 12 goals for the season or something? I actually remember him playing against us last season for Bradford. He played against us in the 3-1 defeat up at Valley Parade, which I think you were there as well, Will, weren't you? But he played really well that day, and he stood out for me. And I think this is a level where he really is thriving and doing really well, and he's going to be someone we need to watch on Saturday for sure. He's full of confidence at the moment. Having said that, Woking's home form, as you pointed out before, isn't that good. And also, we have only lost once away in the last 4 months. So always like to put a positive spin on it. And I think that there will be a psychological change. I think now that we've got those tricky games out of the way, I think there will be a psychological change in that we can go on and secure the points we need now. So I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay on Saturday. I think we'll probably surprise a few people that will be just looking at the recent results and thinking it's going to be a straightforward home win. Just with regard to the lineup, Will, I'm sort of scratching my head with it at the moment because we're still talking about the James Henry, Josh Barrett conundrum, aren't we? And yeah, I remember Guy talking to me about it in 2024 or whenever it was. It seems like we've been talking about it forever. And I'm just wondering whether both of them are going to play on Saturday or not. I just don't know. And also the new signing, lad from Shrewsbury, Callum Stewart, I think it is. I'm not quite sure where he fits in at the moment. You know, he had a really industrious debut at Forest Green, although he spent the majority of that match playing in a deep sort of left-sided role, which is certainly not where I expected to see him. So, you know, whether he gets some minutes or not, it could be in the sort of Hadi Gandor left-sided position. I was expecting him to be a direct replacement for Sean Patton, to be honest. I thought he was going to be, you know, nippy little striker who's right on the shoulder. But he hasn't, whether or not he's not been asked to play that role yet, or whether or not that's not something that's in his repertoire, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, interesting to see what the lineup is. The only other thing I would just throw into the mix after Woking is that, yeah, our transfer window, as it were, we can sign players up to the 26th of March. So I'm just wondering whether or not, again, there's one or two last sort of deals that Coleman's got up his sleeve, and maybe even if the result doesn't go our way against Woking, he might be actually forced into doing something before the 26th.
Yeah, that's an interesting little deadline to keep our eye on. So it'll come after the Boreham Wood game, so next Thursday. So yeah, I mean, because as you said, you'll feel going into it with quite a bit of confidence. Obviously, you know, a bad result against Woking, and then we go into Boreham Wood, who are, you know, one of the better teams in this league, and we're on a 5-game slide, which, you know, football is a funny thing, and as we've been saying. Well, we were trying to kid ourselves, I think, during October and parts of November that things were going to get better. You know, we just need I just need something, just need a goal to knock our confidence, and then we'll be back. It did take a goal, and it was that Tyler Frost goal that kick-started it all, it seems. Obviously, I'm hoping he can find a way back into this team and get himself some minutes on Saturday. But yeah, I'm broadly confident. I'm always pretty confident going there. But it seems if you look at the weather, that's the best way to do it. It rained last year. It's looking like there might be a bit of rain this year. So rain equals loss. I'm not sure. That's just pathetic fallacy, I think. So we'll just briefly touch on that Boreham Wood game. We won't do a pod until after that. But then we will have just a little bit of time to talk about what I've dubbed Project 3000. I'm sure you can use that name if you want. So Boreham Wood, reverse fixture was a comfortable win for Boreham Wood. They basically passed us off the pitch on a lovely carpet of a pitch. Matt Rush, top goal scorer with 22 goals in the league. He's third behind Manny Diasarubi and Ollie Pearce, of course. They've scored. There have been 27 goals in their last 5 league games. That's over 5 goals per game. And obviously they're tending to come out on top of those. They are 12 points ahead of Halifax in 7th, and almost guaranteed a playoff place. The next couple of games will decide that, and only 4 points behind Carlisle. Quick thoughts from you, Guy, on that game coming up around on the Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the that Matt Rush had 22 league goals for them. But I also think two other people we should keep an eye out for. Zach Brunt, who's their number 8. He's not only amongst the goals, I think he's got 13 goals, so he's the second highest goal scorer for them this season. But he's also got 10 assists. So I think there's got to be a lot of attention given to sort of neutralizing him, shutting him down, because so that he's not able to get the ball in. And also there's another midfielder as well, Abdul Malik, who has also had 11 goals and 6 assists. Those two, along with Matt Rush, seem to be sort of the danger points that we need to keep an eye on, and also the players that those of us wanting to, for people wanting to watch the game, keep an eye on those players. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's going to come down to what we've been trying to do. I mean, as I said, with the last 4 games, we're doing well getting the ball, keeping the ball, but we've got to make chances, and we've got to make those chances count. It would also make a big difference if we didn't concede so quickly in the first half, because then it makes it that much harder for us. We talked about Forest Green as kind of perhaps being the game where the points got away from us. And I don't think we did ourselves any favor, but after we went 2-0 down within 30 minutes, it was always going to be uphill. So yeah, I mean, with Boreham Wood, so we're going to be talking about a little bit more quality perhaps than Woking. So, but once we've got over that particular game, then let's see, we're then starting to get towards sort of the bottom end teams like Morecambe and Gateshead and Brackley. So it's going to be a different kind of vibe going on right there. Yeah, so I guess with Boreham Wood, it's going to be a little bit of a tough game, but as ever, just need to keep it solid, keep it tight at the back, and see if we can, maybe hit them on the break.
Nice. And I'll come to you next, Ian. Obviously, I'm 100% certain we're not getting 3,000 through the gate on next Tuesday at home to Boreham Wood. That was the plan. What do you want to chip in on the 3,000 and maybe the general financial stuff that we've seen in the last week?
Yeah, I'm very concerned about the sort of Facebook posts that Dean's made saying that we need 3,000. I'd certainly appreciate that he's public and he's honest about the trouble we've got, and I'm massively relieved and grateful that he stepped in recently, because I don't think anyone else would have or could have. But I also had a fear when he took over that he's getting deeper and deeper in, and that can only be a bad thing for the club. So I don't know how he gets 3,000 with the ticket prices as they are, but a reduction in ticket prices is not necessarily the answer to that either. So I do not envy his position. I just hope that, enough of us that can attend will attend. And that does the trick, that we get enough money to keep us going. But yeah, I fear a lot. We've not had a kind fixture list this year, have we? As Julian pointed out, we're used to playing Woking Christmas, New Year. We didn't get that. Some of that is down to the trouble. So possibly as a fan base, not everyone, of course, but we've caused that problem. We didn't have any home cup fixtures. And then the fixtures that are left, we've been unlucky. Carlisle, it was rumoured they'd sold 800 away tickets. It got moved to a Tuesday night, so we ended up with 230. So, yeah, I don't see how we get 3,000. I can't see anything that can be done immediately, but let's hope that anyone that was on the fence about attending for the remaining games does turn up and we get as close to it as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And Guy, do you want to chip in with your little stat bomb there?
Yes. You asked us ahead of it, and I have to say, Project 3000 sounds like sort of an upgrade on Terminator or something. It's quite ominous when you put it like that. But no. I was struck because when he were trying to get 3,000, it's a real challenge, because the last time we had an average attendance of 3,000 or more than 3,000 was back in 2009 when we got promoted to the league. Before that, it was 2004 when we got promoted to what's now the National League. So I take from that you've got to have a successful team playing as well. You've got to have success on the pitch will bring in fans. But also, I think something else that we also can't overlook. It's one thing to talk about trying to bring in more fans, but the nature of the game is changing now, and there is a lot more expectations associated with match day, and so just showing up for a game is really not enough. And we're seeing this. You see other teams even nearby us, like Farnham Town, who've really boosted their attendances in recent years. And I think maybe we should be looking at what these teams are doing. It's not just about what's going on the pitch, they're doing other things as well. And I think if we really do want to get attendances up, and I think we will, then we need to be looking at other ways of trying to attract it, as well as having a successful team.